Hello YouTube. This is the first video in a series I'm going to be doing that'll talk about how to play certain ships in Star Wars Armada. This series will at least start off by talking about ships that are either less frequently played or frequently misplayed. Today's ship, if you couldn't guess by the title of the video or by my screen here, is the MC-80 Liberty variant. The MC-80 is a Rebel large ship with a command value of 3, squadron value of 2, and an engineering value of 4. It has two variants, the MC-80 Star Cruiser at 96 points and the more expensive MC-80 Battle Cruiser at 103 points. The difference between the two is that the Star Cruiser has 3 red, 4 blue dice in the front to the Battle Cruiser's 4 red, 3 blue. And it has 2 blue dice in the rear to the Star Cruiser's 1 red and 1 blue, and the Battle Cruiser has 2 black flak dice to the Star Cruiser's 1 black flak dice. Pretty straightforward in terms of differences there. Nothing really to write home about. Now, any of you familiar with the MC-80 in lore, in Star Wars lore canon, or who probably have watched Eckhart's Ladder's video on the topic, will know that the MC-80 is the Rebel Alliance's direct answer to the Imperial Star Destroyer. It answers the Star Destroyer effectively by being, in many ways, the exact opposite of a Star Destroyer. The Star Destroyer has heavy hull plating and hull armor, and a lot of guns pointed forward, whereas the MC-80 has redundant power generators, which give it exceptionally powerful shields, and a more even distribution of turbo laser and ion cannon batteries. In Armada, as in Star Wars lore, the Imperial Star Destroyer has all of its guns pointed forward. Canonically, the MC-80 would use its very powerful shields to survive a brief frontal assault, and then it'll maneuver back into a position towards the side or rear of a Star Destroyer, where all of the Star Destroyer's turbo laser weapons can't be brought to bear, and then it will be able to then keep up a steady stream of fire, as canonically, the MC-80 has a very even distribution of turbo lasers and ion batteries, which the Star Destroyer doesn't. In Armada, this is sort of the case with 2 Rebel ships, the MC-80 Home 1 variant, I just have the Assault Cruiser variant of the Home 1 up here, and the MC-75. Both of these ships have pretty good shielding, not so much with the MC-75, but it is much cheaper, and a very even distribution of weapons along its hull zones. MC-80 in particular, the Assault Cruiser, has 2 defensive retrofit slots here. These allow it to tank and mitigate a ton of damage that it can take from the front arc of a Star Destroyer, and allow it to get into a more advantageous position, though it is much more difficult with the MC-80. As you can see, it can only go up to speed 2. The Liberty doesn't function anything like anything I just said in Armada at all. So you're probably thinking, okay, well, you just spent all that time talking about that. Why did you need to? Eckhart's Ladder already did that. Don't be so impatient. I'm getting there. The Liberty is not, in the strictest sense of the word, a capital ship in Star Wars Armada. It is a heavy support vessel that can be a pocket capital ship if it needs to be. How do we know this? Well, we know this because the Imperial Interdictor was the ship that came out alongside the Liberty in Wave 5, and that's exactly what the Interdictor is. These ships have the same battlefield function, but the way they execute that function is completely different. The Interdictor flies initially not unlike a Star Destroyer. You point it towards the enemy, you steer in there, and you don't get too concerned if you're in the middle of a giant combat scrum. The reason for this is because the Interdictor is, in my opinion, the best damage mitigation ship in Armada to date, which is July 2020. How does it do this? Well, you put on Captain Brunson, an Imperial-only commander, who can cancel dice if you're at distance 1 to 2 of an obstacle. You put on Targeting Scramblers, which allow you to reroll up to 4 dice if you're defending at close range, and the Interdictor title, which allows you to ready another equipped card to your ship. So you can ready Captain Brunson or Targeting Scramblers, and then you can use it twice in a turn. The thing with the Interdictor, though, is while it can mitigate a ton of damage, it's not particularly adept at dealing it out, which is why I like to put something like heavy ion emplacements, which allow you to drain an enemy ship's shields fairly quickly, allowing another ship, like a Star Destroyer, to come in and deal a killing blow directly onto the hull. The Liberty, it has no damage mitigation at all other than its defense tokens. If you could put Major Durlin on there, but you probably won't. It has no defensive retrofit slots at all. The Liberty isn't good at mitigating damage. It can, however, deal a ton of damage back out. And this is almost exclusively due to the title Mon Carin. And in some ways, it's a shame that Liberty has Mon Carin because it means you never see it run without Mon Carin. Endeavor is a great title, in my opinion, very fair and balanced. I'd like to see more titles like Endeavor. At the start of the first round, gain a contained defense token. For 4 points, that's pretty fair. Liberty, I don't think it's as good as Endeavor. If you spent a squadron token, you may activate 1 additional squadron. This could be a lot of fun if the Liberty had a offensive retrofit, which it doesn't. Mon Calamari Exodus fleet, always good on Mon Cal ships, but you always pick Mon Carin. Mon Carin reads, if while attacking a ship, the defender cannot spend more than 1 defense token. I'll get into just how ridiculous that can be in a second here. In terms of the rest of its upgrades, it does come with 2 turbo laser retrofits, which is great. In general, you're going to see spinal armaments run a lot because you want to fully take advantage of that front arc where you're going to be dealing that ton of damage with Mon Carin. Another option in the front arc is to run quad battery turrets, which I've conveniently blurred out here. While attacking a ship with a higher speed than yours, you may add 1 blue die to your attack pool. This is really handy to always get that blue dice in your attack pool for leading shots, and this even works at long range, so pretty good. In terms of the other upgrade, I generally pick something like Link Turbo Laser Towers or XX9s. This one actually can sometimes be even skipped on. I know it sounds weird not taking a second Turbo Laser upgrade. We'll go with Link Turbo Laser Towers because we're using the MC-80 Battlecruiser in this scenario, and we can take full advantage of that 2 black flak dice. In terms of ion cannon upgrades, generally leading shots for the rerolls. The reason for that is because with that giant front arc, you'll want to take gunnery teams since you're throwing a lot of red and blue dice at medium and long range. Sniping 2 small ships in the same turn, that sounds pretty good to me. This is the really big advantage the Liberty has, though, and that's its support team slot. This is just begging for engine techs. Reason for that, it can go up to speed 3, so now you're able to pull off an effective speed 4 maneuver in a large ship. In terms of officer slots, there are a number of choices here. Strategic advisor, of course. Intel officer's not terrible either. Potentially a Lando Calrissian, just in case you get into a tight spot. He gives you an effective get out of jail free card, except it's not get out of jail, it's get out of dying horribly. So let's take strategic advisor just because that appears to be the meta these days. So how exactly are you supposed to fly the Liberty then? Well, it only has 8 hull, it has 5 shields in the front, 2 shields everywhere else. Less overall hull than a Star Destroyer, less overall shielding than a Star Destroyer. Meaning you don't fly it like a Star Destroyer. Here in this scenario, I've just got a Liberty, and I've got some Rebel ships here. This is a mod I'm using in Tabletop Simulator. No, it's not Vassal, I know. I'll link the mod in the description below if you have any interest. I just found it on the Steam storefront. I should say the Steam Workshop. The Liberty does not fly in to the middle of an enemy fleet like this, acting like a Star Destroyer. It doesn't do that. MC-75 can, especially if you do an MC-75 Ordnance Cruiser, get a ton of black dice in there. Sure, absolutely. MC-75 has a ton of shields, and it's got a defensive retrofit slot allowing you to put ECMs or early warning system in there. Liberty doesn't do that. As I said, this is not a capital ship. This is a heavy support vessel. But, as I also showed you, it's got that engine techs upgrade, meaning it can easily get into a strong flanking position, come over here, and oh look, I've got 2 small ships in my front arc. And thanks to Mon Carin, they can't redirect, contain, or evade, or brace. They can only pick one of those things. Big problem for the Architens, because the Architens likes to redirect and evade. Raider, yeah. Especially with the Iden Versio upgrade now, that's a big problem for the Raider. Bigger problem for ships like the Assault Frigate, if I was playing against a Rebel fleet, or the Gladiator. Because these ships will oftentimes stay at long range and then move in. And at long range, they'll want to use all three of their defensive retrofits. Assault Frigate especially can do that, if they can. And they can't do that now against Mount Cairn. Okay, you're getting it now. Mount Cairn can deal a ton of damage. It's the bane of small ships. And of course, it's really bad against big ships. Really bad for big ships, I should say. Because now the Star Destroyer can redirect or brace or contain. Can't do all three. You don't need to bring something like XX9s to get that guaranteed face-up damage card. But now you've had your fun. And now that Star Destroyer's like, hey, that wasn't very nice. I'm going to come say hello to you. And it moves into position. Liberty says, yeah, I'm not going to do that, thanks. I'm going to go up to speed 3 and do an engine text to make a speed 4 maneuver and end up like over here. Because it can do that. Which brings us to the commander, of which there are really two great recommendations. Admiral Radis, of course. Radis, despite being soft nerfed, not hard nerfed, soft nerfed, because he got a bit of an upgrade as well. Still amazing. And General Medine, who conveniently came with the Liberty expansion pack. While a friendly ship executes a navigate command, if it spent a nav dial, it may increase one additional yaw value by 1. If it spent a nav token, it may either change its speed or increase yaw value by 1. So, if we pick Medine, another great officer option is Ramus Antilles, giving yourself that extra nav token every time you activate. So, this atrocious, there's no other word for it, maneuver chart here for the Liberty, which you notice I haven't talked about much, despite it being probably the main reason Liberties aren't run, suddenly doesn't become an issue. Because with Radis, you can position it however you want, and maneuverability isn't great. You point it in the direction you eventually want it to end up, and it'll get there. Medine, it doesn't matter where you point it, he can Tokyo drift it wherever you want it to be. But again, jokes aside, I cannot stress enough how much this is not a Star Destroyer. Do not take your Liberty and park it in front of a Star Destroyer and just let it sit there. If your Liberty has to take a front arc from a Star Destroyer, it can. It has 2 brace tokens and 5 shields in the front. It really only wants to take 1. Because after that, it'll want to navigate out of there. So, that about wraps this video up. Hope you all found this educational. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.